Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. We're going to do a little co-preaching today, aren't we? But we'll take turns.
Yes.
It was about a year ago, Stacy this was your idea. I don't know if you remember this. We were talking about what we'll do for our fall. This is our fall program. We do it every year. It's just a spiritual deepening program, just a way for all of us to kind of take up our own spiritual journey in a little bit more conscious way. And we give some frameworks, some metaphors to be able to do that. And Stacy, you said, let's do the hero's journey. She made me do it. So if it doesn't work, I'm going to blame it all on you. No, just So many of you may be aware of this. It comes primarily to us from Joseph Campbell, who's a mythologist and just a wonderful academic person. But in 1949, he wrote this book. I didn't know it was that long ago. 1949, The Hero of 1,000 Faces, with 1,000 Faces. And he coined the phrase, the hero's journey. And what he had studied cultures from all over the world, and he found that there are elements to all of the great stories that are the same. And he said, this must be coming from somewhere. And so you might think, well, maybe it's coming from heaven. He says, no, it's coming from us. That there is an innate journey of our awakening and transformation, that it shares these commonalities in the ways that the things that we face when we're on this journey. And so a lot of work has been done around this work called the hero's journey. I want to say, too, there are some who say that hero is male. We really need to include the women in this. You're included in this. We talked about calling it the heroic journey, the shero's journey. But it's not about gender. And what I think we really need today is we all need to awaken the divine feminine within every one of us and heal that which is broken in our world. Don't you agree? And a lot of the stories do come from patriarchal cultures, so they do have men as the lead characters, but not all. There is something in that divine masculine energy which often can be looked upon as sort of conquest and overcoming. There are a lot of battles in a lot of the great old stories from different places. And the divine feminine is more about embracing and healing, welcoming and unity. So that's what we're talking about today. So there are 12 stages to the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell identified, and I'm not going to give them all to you today. But there are three sort of areas, three kind of regions of the journey, and I do want to give you that. It's called the call, which is what our program is called this fall. There's a call, and that takes place in what is known as the ordinary world. And then it moves us into the descent. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in all of the great stories, there are some problems along the way. It happens for all us in our own lives too. And then finally, the return, sometimes called the resurrection. So let's think about the ordinary world where we get that call. And here's one of my favorite examples of this in storytelling, Dorothy Gale in Black and White Kansas. Do you remember? Just on a farm, everything was so boring and lifeless, and all these problems with the neighbor who wanted to take her dog, Toto. And Dorothy just longing for something more. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? You get it? Something in her was longing for a deeper, richer life that she knew was there. She could feel it calling her into something richer, something deeper, something more meaningful, something freer, some experience of life that aligns with the shape of her soul. I'm a friend of Dorothy. How about you? And that's another story. We'll leave that one for now. All right. And then, so the next is I'll tell you, I had a creative writing class in high school. And I was told, here's the way you write a good story. You get a good hero that everybody likes, or a shero. And then you dig pit, and you throw them in there, and you throw rocks at them. And if you look at all of these stories, they have the trials. But every trial calls forth some new gift, some new resolve, some new understanding. And this is our story too. So it's no mistake that it's called the descent. Because where do you think we're going in our personal journey of spiritual transformation? We're going into the unconscious mind. And I don't know about you, but mine is a scary, dark place sometimes. It has all of those false beliefs that I was taught by my family of origin with the struggles they face, all of the cultural beliefs about how, whatever. We're going to get into more of that later. Just know that it's everything that is unlike the truth of our being in God resides there. All of those false beliefs and error thoughts about us. And as we make a claim to answer the call of a higher, more freer, more rich and deserving, that wasn't the word I was looking for, fulfilling life, then everything that is unlike that will come up to face us. It's like the universe goes, are you sure about that? And that's what it is. Our consciousness is asking to be revealed, and every false belief and every shadow will show itself to us. And we will overcome. We die to a former way of life so that we may live the real life that is waiting for us. And then that third, the return. You know, the Christ path itself is a hero's journey. You can look at the story of Jesus, his ministry, the passion and the crucifixion and the resurrection. That too has these same 12 stages that all of the great stories have. And I've read this quote fairly recently, but I think it just so beautifully talks about the return. This comes from Marcus Borg's book, Reading the Bible Again for the First Time. And he's talking about the passage in John that says that I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. And it's sometimes called the exclusion verse. That's why some Christians believe that this is the only way you get to God is by accepting Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. But there's a deeper meaning in that story and in the Christ path for all of us. And this is what Marcus Borg writes. The same point is made in a story I once heard about a sermon preached by a Hindu professor in a Christian seminary several decades ago. The text for the day included the one-way passage, and about it he said this. This verse is absolutely true. Jesus is the only way. But he went on to say, and that way of dying to an old way of being and being born into a new way of being is known in all the religions of the world. The way of Jesus is a universal way known to millions who have never even heard of Jesus. And now I'd like to pass to Reverend Stacy Collins.
Yeah, I can follow Jesus.
Sure you can.
So I love this idea of the hero's journey, and I'm glad it was my idea. I'll take full credit for it. What I really found so interesting as I started revisiting it is this idea that we do have the call. We're all going to be inviting ourselves to answer the call, but prior to the call, as Reverend Michael mentioned, that the hero finds themselves in their ordinary world. So we don't have to go looking for something. I know a lot of times, what's mine to do? What's my purpose? I need to go out and find something. But before that, the answer, the call, the question, the invitation is happening right in the midst of your ordinary life. Yes. You don't need to look any further than that. And it often starts with a disruption, or it might start with a dissatisfaction. You don't have to raise your hand here, but is anybody in this room slightly dissatisfied with any particular area of your life at all? So good news for you, you're getting ready to go on the hero's journey, should you choose to accept it. One of my favorite little quips, this is from a Daniel Ladinsky translation of Hafiz, is when Hafiz says, well, first, something you got to notice. First, picture a fish riding a camel. And the first thing the fish has to do is say, something ain't right about this camel ride, and man, I'm feeling thirsty. So the good news is something ain't feeling quite right. There's something that's causing you a little tension, something that's causing you a little friction. That's an invitation. Michael Beckwith talks about the idea that pain pushes until vision pulls. So sometimes we see our heroes, and in our own path, we're being pushed into something by pain. And as Michael said, all these things from our unconscious will show up, all the limiting beliefs we have about ourselves. And other times, a vision will pull us into doing something different. And even then, though, no matter how inspiring that idea we get a hold of, we are going to encounter things that are going to say, are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure about that? And so for my own kind of journey in my life, there was a time, it was about 3 days, exactly 3 days before I graduated high school, I decided to enlist in the Navy. Now, it would be lovely if I could stand here today and tell you that the desire to do so came from this desire to serve my country, or this desire to be a part of something bigger than myself, or I just had so much to give that I wanted to give it outward. Instead, I was running from something. I was running from my family of origin, where I had experienced, there were some definite bright moments, and today I can stand here and say I'm 100% grateful for every moment of it. And yet, it was one with some abandonment, with some rejection. So much so by the time that I had found myself a senior in high school, I thought, is there even a place for me in this world? Is there a place that I can feel loved and accepted and to belong? Anybody ever felt like you're searching for a place to belong? Now, had I come to Unity at that point, I would have known that looking out here for that place is not the primary place to look. But I was looking. So I go to the Navy, and I made a lot of friends in boot camp, and I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel myself a little bit. Went through some training. Okay, I'm starting to feel some independence, started to exert myself a little bit. And then comes the time where they're like, okay, it's time for you to go on a ship. Now, let me tell you this. I had never seen a Navy ship before. I'm from Indiana. I didn't barely even see the ocean one time. So as we're driving, I get transferred to San Diego, go to San Diego, and we pull up, and I'm like, oh, they're that big? Oh, dear. I had no idea. And as I go up, the quartermaster's there, and I said, here are my orders. I'm ready to serve. And the guy looks at me and said, there are no women on this ship. This is a male-only ship. Wow. And I thought, well, wait, but and then they said, you're going to have to go sleep on the ship next door. I'm not making that up. We were in port. So I had to go sleep on the ship next door while they figured out what to do with me. And when they figured out what to do with me, they made me sleep in the medical hold until more females got there and they could set up a birthing for us. So I was kind of a little bit of a disease, maybe, the disease of my gender. And so here it was, this idea of looking for belonging. And what do I get told? Not here, you don't. Yeah. And so over a process of time, and in enough places of evidence, whatever you're carrying with you on your journey, whatever beliefs you have about yourself, some of you may know that you're carrying and that you wish to let go. You will be invited on the path to lay those down. Again and again, this isn't a one and done kind of thing. And every time you lay them down, you experience a little more liberation, a little more freedom, a little more access to the love that you want to be in the world because you are living unencumbered of your own stuff. And so Joseph Campbell has this quote that he says that the champion, he's not a champion of things to become, but of things becoming. So as you go along, this isn't about conquering and slaying dragons out there and making the world conform to the way you'd like to have it. It's about becoming open to the inner resources that you have, being open to the inner acceptance and love that you have of yourself. And then as you do that, the world will rise to meet you. Not every time, not every time, but it will often. And people will come into your path, your guides, your mentors, your support systems that see you for who you are and uplift you. And together you can walk along the hero's journey. So one quick thing before I pass to Reverend Michael. We were in Kansas City. Rev Cloudy and Rev Curdy were there too this year. And Jim Rosemurgy was the keynote speaker. And one of the things he said just kind of, I kind of knew it, but sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I think I knew that, but it still does something to you. And he said, in order to do something you've never done before, you must be willing to be something you've never been before. So if you are wanting to experience whatever the call is, if it's a vision, if you just know that this thing ain't right here, ain't working for me, and I need to get off this horse, just get off this camel, whatever that is, you need to, what do you want to be? And this isn't about being somebody else. It's not like doing it like somebody else. This is the inner resources that you already have. Because within you, if there's something you think you need for this journey, you need strength, you need resilience, you need to be authentic, you need compassion, whatever it is that you've identified, you've got it already in here. And your journey unique to you will give you the exact exercise to build those muscles so that you can complete this liberation and freedom and fulfillment of a life for you. So I think that's my first. I'm going to toss back to Reverend Michael, see what he's got to say.
Well,
maybe he'll say I did it all wrong.
I'm inspired. I love the Jim Rosemurgy piece, that we've got to be something we've never been. And I don't want to scare you with all the dragons and dungeons and everything. You know, there are hard things on the journey, but you know that already. Hard things happen in our lives, whether we're on a hero's journey consciously or not. And you said it perfectly, Stacy. It's freedom. That's what's being called. We want to be free. We want to be free from everything that binds us and keeps us small. And we want to be free to express the true gift of who we are. And so I got this from Mark Nepo this week. We are so schooled away from the life below that anything beneath the surface scares us. So I don't want you to be scared. I want you to be brave and courageous as we do this personal journey, and your journey is different from mine, and my journey is different from yours. But I want us all to be courageous together and encourage one another on this, because there is a path of transformation and healing for all of us, and it continues. No matter how much work, healing, transformation we've already accomplished and experienced, there's always more. I've talked a lot about my addiction and recovery story. Someone I heard this just recently said that my recovery initially was about attending to the problems caused by my drinking. But then, ever since then, it's been about attending to the problems that caused me to drink. And under every addiction, there is some belief in lack. I'm not something enough. And that it's so uncomfortable to feel that inadequacy and shame. We all have shame. Brene Brown says, you know, we all have shame, and the less you're willing to talk about it, probably the more you have. And it's childhood stuff, and it comes up again and again. And you know, we get a reputation for being an ascending spiritual path. We want to rise into our manifestation of all of our dreams. Yes, we do. And we're not apologizing for that. But this work we're doing in these 6 weeks is to remind us there's deep work too, and we have to go down as well. We have to look beneath the surface so that we can attend to what is it that's causing these patterns that keep me from achieving my life of freedom. I like to call the unconscious mind the gift that keeps on giving. Normally, and I was taught in seminary, you do not want to process with your church. You want to share your process after you've kind of gotten through it. But this came up in therapy this week, and it's so good, I just want to share it with you. I was working on something else completely unrelated, and I had a feeling of shame came up. It did. That I had not done something I thought I should have done for someone in this community. And I felt bad about myself for not getting to do that. And the therapist was brilliant. He said, "Where is that in your body?" I said, "I'm feeling it kind of right here." He said, "Okay, close your eyes. Now, let a memory come forward where you had that feeling before." And a memory came forward. I was 16 years old. I'm sitting in my car, which is the Chevy Malibu, the old family car, 1976 Chevy Malibu. And my mom, I needed to drive her to go pick up her car, which had oil change or something. And I turn the ignition, and the AM radio is playing the top 40 station. And I had a shame attack. Because you see, in our family, I had decided or felt that I was supposed to be the perfect child. And we were evangelical Christian. We were at the church every time the doors opened. We were so into that faith. And I believed, and I was told that I was not to listen to secular music. And so I listened to it secretly. Listening to Olivia Newton-John and Casey and the Sunshine Band. And when my mom, because it was 1982, when my mom heard that, saw my reaction to turn it off, she must have felt the shame, but then she added on. I love you, Mom, I really do. But she said, "Michael, you know you shouldn't be listening to that." And I was covered in shame. And that memory came up just this week, and then that memory has been up a few times, and just recently I've come to understand that if she really knew what my secret shame was, she wouldn't worry about me listening to Elton John. And in my therapist's office on Tuesday, this deep sadness that I grew up in a religious system that shamed me for being who I am. that shamed me for being gay, for not being like the way that they thought I was supposed to be. And so I hid my authentic self as much as I could, even behind, like not listening to Elton John and Olivia Newton-John, all of them. And that shame was just covering me. And what I've come to see, that this is the next step of my hero's journey, is to once again come to, and I've been working on this for 40 years, coming to terms with those messages, not just from my parents and my family system, but from this religion that I grew up in, that told me I was not good enough, and who I was fundamentally flawed and broken. And that is still in me. And it comes out in times I don't even know of it. But every time it comes up, here's what I tell you. Have you heard this idea of the layers of the onion? When you're doing some work of healing your childhood, you think you've done all of it, you've forgiven your mother for everything, it's all good, and then, here it comes again. It's another layer of the onion. The first time that happened in my recovery work, I was really pissed off because I thought I had healed this, and here it comes again. And in subsequent times when it came up again, I would be like, well, okay, I'll do the work and I'll have more freedom on the other side of it. And sometimes now, when an old wound comes up again, I go, all right, let's get to it. Because I know that freedom and fulfillment are mine. Back to you, Stacy.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Well, and so far we've kind of been talking about this idea. It is a very individual experience in some ways, this hero's path. Yours isn't going to look like anyone else's. And to try to compare that, as a matter of fact, can create some pain. Why am I not as far along as this person? And let me tell you, they're probably not as far along as you think they are, or as their social media shows that they are, or when they're all cleaned up at church as they are. And when Thomas Merton talks about the idea of when we start to compare our shadows with what we perceive to be other shadows, we're trading in unrealities, things that do not exist, and we can find no joy in things that do not exist. So first we must give ourselves a break that we get to do it our own way. That's right. And we have no idea what's going on for everybody underneath the surface of their lives as well. And then there's this piece too that I love so much, this idea, and we showed it in our multi-generational ceremony earlier, that each generation is a gift unto the other, that each one of us is a gift unto one another. And so the world right now is calling for not just a random hero from over here, from Tatooine, from Hogwarts, or any of these places. Each one of us is being invited into a journey so that we can bring back the boon, bring back the treasure, bring back the things that we free for ourselves and give them to the whole community. Because when we free ourselves and we realize our own innate power and we can be our own authentic, loving selves with one another, we give everybody else in the room permission to do so themselves. We give everybody else in the room permission. Thank you, yeah. And so I love this idea of that we get to be the ones with the treasure. And Carol Pearson, who wrote the book, The Hero Within, she talks about this, bringing the treasure back to the community. And then she says this. She says, no one's coming to save us. It's us. But that's the good news. And I love how Unity holds this idea of our teacher of the great example, not the great exception, Jesus of Nazareth. Because we use Jesus' teaching, this brilliant rabbi, we use his teachings to not shame anybody to you got to do it just like me. To not shame anybody, you've got to fit into this particular category and live your life in a certain way. He didn't dictate that. He said, follow me. It's an invitation. Follow me. Look at the way I am living. Look at the way I am understanding my connection with the divine. I and the Father are one. Bless your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. The kingdom of heaven is within and among you. Yes. All of these things that Jesus said are pointing us into the direction of our own path. It's a journey inward that allows us to express outwardly what we've really been designed to express all along. Amen. And so I want to finish with this quote from Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell, who fathered the hero's journey in the 1940s, and he talked about this idea of it being an individual journey and a collective one, and that it is all inner work. Everything we could possibly need to encounter and every resource to meet it is right in here. And so he said, we even not have to risk taking the journey alone because the heroes of all time have gone before us. The heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is thoroughly known. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path. Wow. And where we had thought to find an abomination, we will find a God. And where we had thought we'd have to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. Where we had thought we had to travel outward, we will come to the center of our own existence. And where we thought we were alone, we will be with all the world. This is the work that we get to do with one another. Amen. We're not alone. And for every person that does it is a light that connects to another light. And we get to be that in the world. And I'm so grateful for this spiritual community that celebrates the light within each one of us. Yeah.
I think I'm feeling for you to start. Yes, thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. Yeah, to start the prayer?
Do you mind starting the prayer?
I'll pray. I feel a prayer coming on. Will you all just pause with me? Would you breathe with me? Just like that, just in this particular space, in the very chair you're sitting in, whether you're in here or online, the very place where the ground is meeting your feet, this is a holy place. This is a place where the complete and totality of the divine is within each and every person, expressing itself in, through, and as us. Yes. So whatever equipment you perceive yourself to have, in your humanity, in your mind, your concerns, your worries, your aspirations, your dreams, all of it is enfolded in an imperfect package for what you need to complete your own hero's journey, moment by moment, day by day. And what I know and affirm for each person in this room is that there is indeed a divine calling, an invitation for you to experience and express more joy, more peace, more light, more of all the things that you would wish to experience in this life. And I pass my prayer.
And I add my agreement to everything that Stacy has spoken. And I too affirm that all within the sound of my voice are hearing the call to their greater yet to be. Greater healing, greater freedom, greater love, greater service one to another. We're all feeling this desire to keep growing, keep evolving, laying down everything that stands in the way, any old pattern of behavior that would keep us small and wounded. We rise up in the power of God within us. We take courage by all those who have done this work before, knowing that we too can recover that part of our soul that has been unavailable to us up until now. And so I declare that we are whole, we are healed, and we share this healing with one another. And for our needful world today, we bring the light into the darkness. And I am grateful. In gratitude, I release this prayer, knowing that it's done. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Reverend Stacy.
Thank you, Reverend Michael.
This is going to be good work, y'all. I hope you'll join us. If no one has told you today that they love you, we love you. God bless you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.